Hi, this is Mr. Evans. This video looks at partnerships as a form of ownership. So what is a partnership? Well, a partnership is an unincorporated business that has unlimited liability. So what does that mean? Well, it means that in my partnership, my personal assets and the business's assets are one and the same. Okay, I would have a partner in this situation, so there would be two owners. Okay, but my assets and the business's assets are the same. Whereas if I've got limited liability, then the business's assets are separate from the owner's personal assets. So why is this an issue with partnerships? Well, because if something goes wrong with the business, there's no distinction in law between my personal assets and the business's assets. So if something goes wrong with the business, as a partnership, I am responsible for the debts of the business, whereas if I had a incorporated business with limited liability, I would lose the money that I put into the business, but my personal assets would be safe. They're a different thing. So I've covered that in more depth in another video. I suggest you watch that if you're unsure or if that wasn't very clear. So specifically, what is a partnership is when two or more people own and run a business. The business is unincorporated, meaning they have unlimited liability. So that's a definition. But what are the advantages? Well, if you've got more than one owner, you are going to have different skill sets available for the business. So let's just take the example of plumbing. Let's say that I start up my own business as a sole trader. I'm a really good plumber, but maybe I'm not so good at accounting and marketing. I don't really know how to advertise to people. Or if I had a friend who was interested in joining me, who maybe had experience of marketing, finance, then we could split it. So I was doing the day-to-day tasks of going out and fixing people's boilers. Well, my partner could be drumming up business, advertising, doing all of those things that would complement the business and indeed make it better. So different owners bring different skill sets. The terms of the partnership are laid out in a deed of partnership document, which reduces the chances of conflict. So one of the disadvantages, of course, being a partnership is that you've got to make decisions with someone else. However, the deed of partnership is a document that tries to minimise the amount of conflict that will take place, particularly about how to split the profits, because that can be a source of contention. It's laid out in the deed of partnership how the profits are to be split, whether it's a 50-50 split if there's two partners, or maybe we know at the start that one partner will be working for the business full-time and maybe someone else is doing 1 or 2 days a week, in which case maybe it's a 70-30 split of the profit. But that's all laid out in the deed of partnership and should prevent arguments from occurring, hopefully, because it's all very clear what needs to happen. Well, what are the other advantages of being in a partnership? Your financial records are not published publicly, which can be helpful because your competitors aren't going to know what you're up to, how well you're doing. Whereas if you're an incorporated business, a public or private limited company, you do need to make your accounts available to Companies House. You share the risks and responsibilities as a partnership. We've talked about splitting the responsibilities in terms of like the different roles that people do. But you also share the risks, which is important given unlimited liability, which I'll come to in a moment. And each owner can bring capital to the business, start-up capital to the business. So if I am a sole trader, and if I start as a sole trader and I've got 20,000 in savings to put into the business, then great, I've got 20,000 in savings, that's what I can put into the business. But if I've got a partner who's also got 20,000 in savings, suddenly the business has £40,000 startup capital, and that could be very helpful in terms of getting the business off the ground. Well, what about the disadvantages of being in a partnership? The partners have unlimited liability where their personal assets are at risk if something goes wrong in the course of the business. Now, of course, this is a big issue if you're a sole trader, but arguably it'd be even worse as a partnership, because if the responsibility for something that went wrong in the business was your partner's fault, then your personal assets could be at risk if the business can't cover the if the business doesn't have enough capital to cover the damage that's caused. So you're responsible for all of the debts of the business. If the business gets into debt as a result of one of your partners, then you're still responsible for that. So this is a big disadvantage of being in a partnership. It means that decision making can be time consuming and lead to disagreements, because it's a high stakes situation where you've got your personal assets at risk. And the final disadvantage is that if one partner withdraws, it means the business will have to be dissolved, and maybe remaining partners could start again, or if one person leaves the business, then that's it. And even unfortunately, in the situation where a partner dies, then the business is also dissolved. Whereas if you've got a limited liability company that's incorporated, even if one of the owners passes away, then the business can keep going, which is obviously helpful if you built up a good brand image and name over the years.